Hello, listener. Today we have a special guest on the show just in time for Halloween. I've managed to get an author who's written some pretty cryptic texts to come on and tell us about his latest book, Werewolf Magick. Denny Sargent is an author of over a dozen books and a professional in academia, but his esoteric side is his passion and has been with him the majority of his life. You'd be surprised just how vast werewolf lore truly is, and how it has been intertwined with pretty much every civilization throughout human history in one way or another. Even the witch trials at Salem had dabbles of it thrown in. But it's the more psychological side of the topic that Denny talks about that I find the most interesting. A look into werewolf lore reveals that we have a ton of DNA of canines to a great degree. It's pretty ridiculous. And the ancestral memories are buried deep within the collective unconscious of humanity, always trying to scratch their way to the conscious surface out of repression. So let's dive into it and see just what is revealed behind the dark veil of the subconscious and the secrets behind our relationship with nature. I'm your host, Tim Hacker, and you're listening to Cryptic Chronicles.
Now is the time to take risks.
Okay.
All right. So hello, listeners. I'm here with Ashley, and today we're interviewing Denny Sargent about his book, Werewolf Magick, just in time for Halloween. So Denny, you are a writer, an artist, a university instructor. You have a bachelor's degree in education and a master's degree in history and a intercultural communications degree, correct?
Correct. That's what I got.
And you spent basically most of your life in education.
Yes, I have. Even when I had my master's degree, I was a teaching assistant at Western Washington University, and I've been teaching ever since. I fell into ESL, lived abroad in Japan for 4 years. Became the head of an ESL institute. I was the director. Then I moved over. I got more credits and in linguistics and a bunch of other things. Then I moved over to being a graduate level instructor in TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. I train teachers is what I do.
Yeah, you've written several university textbooks.
I've written a few. None of them are fantastic, but
well, that's modest of you. You're also a well-known occult writer, which is probably the most fascinating thing I find about you.
I don't know how well known I am, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah. So just where did werewolf lore come from, and how did you begin your research? How did this whole thing start concerning your book?
Okay, that's it's like the little intro in my book too, so I'll give you the short version. About 5 years ago, I had a traumatic shift in my life. Lost my wife, lost my house, lost everything, and then a year later, my job at the university disappeared, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. So I was in a very, very bad place. And sorry, that's my dog.
Good boy.
He's going to do that once in a while. And, yeah, that's perfect soundtrack to my life at that point.
I got one too, see?
Oh, yeah, there we go. They can bark at each other.
Yeah, he heard.
Hey, it's about werewolves. I mean, if our dogs can't,
Right.
Anyway, so I meditate every night. I'm also I'm an initiated tantric. I'm a witch. I'm all these other things too. It doesn't really matter, but I sit and meditate every night, and no matter how rough things are. And I was meditating, and all of a sudden I noticed, as one does when one's in deep meditation, entities come and gods talk to you, and it's all part of the idea of being out on the in the deep meditative zone. Anyway, a three-eyed wolf showed up, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And started to talk to me. Now, this is an archetypal form in my unconscious, very likely, right? Mm-hmm. But it was very important. It started telling me things that I didn't realize and didn't know. And then I looked up, I said, oh my goodness, I'm getting real feed here. And the three-eyed wolf basically said, like, I'm here to free you from the hell that you've created for yourself, more or less. And started leading me down this path. And I've always liked werewolves. I mean, I like horror movies, but have never thought of it as as an occult or religious or spiritual thing. Then I started doing some research, and all of a sudden realized over 2/3 of witches that were accused of witchcraft, well, people who were accused of witchcraft during the Middle Ages, were also accused of being werewolves, which I didn't know, And I was like, wow, this is a thing. And then I started digging deeper and realized that, no, this isn't just a thing from the church in the Middle Ages. There have been werewolf cults since the dawn of history, and it traces all the way back to shamanism and animism. Then I remembered, okay, I've traveled to maybe 28, 29 countries in my life. It's my obsession. I like to travel. And I like especially to go to, I guess I would call them less industrialized countries like Guatemala and Nepal. And I literally ran into shamans in 3 different places. And one of them took me to actually a gathering of shamans in the mountains in Guatemala that was astounding. But I have some idea about shamanism. I don't claim to be a shaman, and I don't claim my book is a book teaching shamanism. I'm just saying it was influenced deeply by the ancient practices of shamanism and soul retrieval and astral projection, that shamans leave their body and go help people and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. So all this has started to come through me as I'm meditating every night. I'm writing reams and reams of stuff. And then I get the very clear instruction, like, go out into the woods in the middle of the night. Get out, go out. And I sort of in a crazed frenzy drove off and ran into the woods and ripped off all my clothes and just kind of like threw myself at the mercy of Gaia, of the great Earth Mother, and said, I'm broken, I need help here. And at that point, it was completely nonverbal. And I had a major spiritual experience of Gaia sort of embracing me and nature embracing me. I don't think it was supernatural, because I think nature is always there to do that for us, but we have cut ourselves off from nature so intensely that we don't hear it anymore. We can't connect with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is where my traveling around different countries really helped, because I hung out with these shamans. I've hung out with people in many, many places, lots of indigenous tribal people who have made it very clear to me that animals and people are the same. Like this was just a norm in a lot of conversations, was like, they called animals people. They said, oh, well, the people of the forest or the people of the woods, they teach us many things, and we eat some of them, and sometimes they eat us, right? And I once I went into the woods and did this and kind of ripped open my brain and ripped open my heart and everything, and just kind of stopped thinking, and I realized that later I deconstructed this whole thing and was told point blank, you've got to release your animal self. You've got to release the part of you that truly knows that you're an animal, and break through all the stuff that's crowding our brain. It's filling our head with civilized things, and I have appointments tomorrow, and
a bunch of programming.
Yeah, your programming, your religious programming, whatever you grew up with, your family programming. Everybody thinks that the way they grew up was the way things should be, but having been to lots of countries, I can tell you, everybody has a very different paradigms on what that is to exist as a person.
Yeah, you don't seem to be really trapped in any paradigms. I read your book in like 3 days, and yeah, you seem pretty fluid.
I've reached that point through this. And so, okay, here's the joke. The joke was I never planned to write this book. I'm writing other books. I wrote a book on Tantra. I'm writing books on other things. And I was writing and writing and writing this stuff, but it was for me, and these rituals started to flow through me, and I was like, okay, and every single one of them I did, and I was very lucky because I lived. At that point, I had an apartment that was in the middle of 70 acres of woods, so I got to, I can run off into the woods and rip off my clothes and howl, and no cops ever came, so I was kind of lucky on that one. But all the rituals you see in there, I've done, and then went back and rewrote them. But the whole point was to completely let my animal self come out and just for a period of time, just exist as a quote unquote werewolf. Let the wolf spirit, the three-eyed wolf that kept showing up, has become codified in my mind as the great wolf spirit. And lo and behold, I started. As a historian, the first thing I do is, okay, this is a personal gnosis that's going on with me here, right? It doesn't maybe apply to anyone else, but this is what's happening with me in my life.
So in the book, you go into some pretty fascinating topics. When you first experienced that, exactly what did you come across when you started to look deeper into the lore of werewolf stuff?
Well, that's it. Once I started looking at history, I was like, oh my God, there have been werewolf cults since the dawn of time. Who knew, right? Like literally, they call them like the Roman festival of Lupercalia. You read the book. Thank you for reading the book, by the way. Almost nobody reads the book.
I read it all the way to the back.
Did you really? Mm-hmm. Wow, you're a first, I have to say, of everybody who's interviewed me. Congratulations. They just skim it and they go, okay, tell us about it.
Nope, I'm serious. But go on, yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much I do. But yeah, I started doing research. And so for example, like in ancient Rome, Lupercalia, the wolf festival was a huge festival in Rome. Mm-hmm. 4 days of licentious craziness, drunkenness, wild sex in the streets. It was the big Roman festival, right?
Oh yeah.
And the priests who ran this festival were called Luperci, which translates directly as werewolf. Now, I was like, okay, go further back. And I'm finding this term in different cultures, like Lycos is wolf and Lycion is the wolf mountain in Greece, where apparently lycanthropy as a religious observance has been going on way into prehistory. They're still doing digs there and finding information.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, as far back as I went all the way back.
What goes past before it's like prehistoric. Even.
Yes, it's prehistoric. The wolves and the wolf god and the wolf spirit was worshipped on Mount Lycaon in Greece way into prehistory. Like they're finding stuff from pre-Hellenic. Later, when the Hellenic gods rose up and Athens and it became a center of culture, they groups of other religious people took over that temple, which was the wolf temple, right? Mm-hmm. And they dedicate to Zeus, and Zeus is called Zeus Lycaon there, which means he's wolf Zeus. And down the hill, one of my favorite deities, there's a big temple to Pan, and Pan at that temple is known as Wolf Pan. So there's always been this element. I found a cave painting of a werewolf that's 40,000 years old in Portugal. That is clearly, if I showed it to you, you'd say, well, yeah, that's definitely a werewolf.
Yeah.
It's a guy with a wolf head holding a spear. It's like, okay.
Wow.
Well, in your book, it's not like people are physically turning into werewolves. Not that that's not possible, like you state later, but it's more so like an astral, like mental, unconscious aspect of the collective unconscious that's like forming.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, and
oh yeah, me too.
Good. Yeah, we could see, the term that kept coming to me over and over again that I use over and over again is the animal self, meaning, and you read the book, so you know.
Yeah, you talk about the DNA, how much of our DNA is actually canine, right. And it's just ancestral primal memories.
That's correct, and also it's consciously moving your cognitive process from the upper cortex down to the lower cortex, what Sagan called the dragon mind. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's all very physiological. It's spiritual and psychic but it's also psychological, and it goes back to the idea that we can shift our states of consciousness, and we have control over our own psychology and the way we perceive the world.
Mm-hmm.
As a tantric, I believe that the universe is Maya. It's Mahamaya. It's samsara. It is made of the goddess Shakti, i.e., it's just energy. But we project our will and our thoughts and our beliefs, and we manifest our reality in many ways. And so this just kind of fell into that. And Carl Jung, of course, fits that
perfectly. Yeah. Perfectly. Yeah.
So people have asked me, oh, do you equate the animal self with the shadow, the Jungian shadow? In a sense, I think the shadow is a personal thing and is a very big thing.
Yeah, there's also that's just one little category of some of the same thing, like there's different names. Like you have the unconscious shadow, and then you have all the other unconscious aspects of the psyche that's beneath the surface too. That could be, we don't even know. It's like the possibilities are limitless.
Exactly right. You read my book. I'm so happy. And you're following the exact same track I followed, which is, I'm not interested in blind belief. I'm interested in magic, the art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. We can't change. I can't change things like the tree outside my window by simply imagining, but I can change my own internal psyche. And where I believe that what werewolf magic was something it grew out of shamanism. I'm virtually certain. And the idea that, and I've met shamans and hung out with shamans, and I actually wrote an article. There's a link in the book to a long article I did on a magazine many years ago called Pangaea. I had a column called Worldwide Paganism, where I interviewed real pagan priests of different traditions like Santeria and Chinese Taoist paganism, and etc. Mm-hmm. And I interviewed two shamans from the Nani Doro, the Ulchi tribe of Siberia. So they were legit shamans. That's
nice.
The word comes from Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating for me to hear their view. This was years before I got into this subject, and they, especially Nadiaja, who I interviewed mostly, she pointed out that being a shaman was kind of sucked because the animal spirits are the ones who initiate it, and they start coming and talking to you and telling you what to do.
Well, it wears you out too.
Yeah, and it wears you out. That's right. She was saying, you're lacking sleep. The shamans don't live that long. Nobody wants to marry a female shaman or a male shaman because, oh my God, you have to deal with that all the time.
So much drama.
Yeah, but they're crucial. Like she had to go into animal shape or ride an animal spirit and go find where the game was. So their tribe would have meat, or go see what was going on with this, or go help somebody heal, So this really helped me. This sort of echoed, not exactly, of course, but sort of echoed my experience with this three-eyed wolf showing up and knocking on my door, and saying, I'm here to help you. You called me, you didn't realize it, but I'm here to help you, and I'm going to stick with you. And it's been a major part of my life since. So, I mean, I wrote, so the book is funny. So I'm writing all this stuff. I'm reams and reams and reams, and also doing art, by the way. I just launched a friend of mine just made a online museum of my werewolf art.
Awesome.
I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, could you send me a link?
I will, and maybe you can, connect it.
I will. I'll connect any and all links you want me to put down on the show notes.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. That's really nice of you. You're a really nice guy. So, so I'm trying to remember where I was going. Oh, yes. So I went to Pantheacon. I'm sure you've heard of Pantheacon.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. It just ended. They just dissolved. It was the largest collection or gathering of pagans, witches, magical people, occultists in the United States. It was down in San Jose every February.
I'm kind of just an armchair researcher, but I am spiritual in a sense. If you could call me anything, I don't really like to put labels on me, but a Taoist would probably be a label.
Excellent. I started with Taoism when I was 10. I found the Tao Te King, and I still keep it right next to my bed. So
I mean, I meditate every day too. Like I'm all into all that stuff. But I'm more of an armchair researcher when it comes to most fringe.
Well, I have to say, as I get older, I am too.
Do you like food? Do you not like going places? Do you like staying home and having food brought to you? Well, you're in luck, because a thing called Blue Apron exists. With multiple pricing, there's a way to get the gourmet delicious meals under any budget. And it's totally worth it. Cryptic Chronicles would not promote Blue Apron unless it knew how good it is for you. With all the junk and everything these days, the majority of people sustain themselves on poison and don't even know it. A healthy spirit, mind, and body requires a healthy lifestyle, and the ability to take care of yourself, and feed your body all the nutrients it needs to function at its best in our highly demanding lives. You get to choose your own meals. The chef-designed recipes include balanced Mediterranean delicacies, quick one-pan dinners, and top-rated customer favorites. Unpack your home-delivered box with enthusiasm because there's a guarantee on freshness and the highest quality of all Blue Apron products and ingredients. Create magic following our step-by-step instructions. You'll experience the magic of cooking recipes that the master Blue Apron chefs created with your family's tastes in mind. With step-by-step instructions, so you never miss a beat and have to get frustrated about making the meal. I know I do that. At least, when I'm not eating a delicious Blue Apron meal that is responsibly sourced, quality ingredients like fresh produce, sustainable seafood and exclusive spice blends means you're going to have a meal that's top tier over the common fast food garbage most people eat. And Blue Apron cares about the environment, which is another reason I love them so much, with recyclable ice packs and packaging to ensure your ingredients stay fresh until you're home and ready and easily disposable for the health of Mother Earth. Do yourself a favor, and take care of your body and mind the way nature intended it, with a healthy meal that's also gloriously delicious. With Blue Apron, the yummy goodness is dropped off right to your very doorstep. So if you like food, and you like not going places, then why not try Blue Apron, and give your mind a rest from going to crowded grocery stores, and writing a list of stuff to get, only to forget half.
Anyway, I went to Pantheacon, and it's kind of fun. You can go watch a voodoo ceremony, or go see a tantric ceremony. You can sort of meet and see lots of new people. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I met. I have a relationship with a couple of different publishers. As you saw, I published a bunch of books.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at them right now. Actually,
I mean, I don't know.
Elder Guardian. No, wait, what are they? Liber Eos, Liber Phoenix. Yeah, you got a whole bunch of books. I don't sell much, and I don't make any money, but it's something. It keeps me off the streets, I guess. Anyway, I talked about you in the Discord channel, and somebody knew exactly who you were right away.
Oh, cool. Really?
Yeah.
Well. So
I think that you're a little bit more well known than you think, buddy.
That's both exciting and a little terrifying. Okay, so oh, where was I? I was at Pantheacon. And I am obsessed with writing books. It's just what I do. And I brought 5 different proposals. And I met with the acquisitions editor for Llewellyn and also Weiser, and one more as well. And I said, oh, these are the books I'm shopping around. What are you interested in? And she goes, no. And I had slipped in a short one about Werewolf Magick, thinking I was really not that excited about it. But my friends were like, no, you should push this. This is something. I was like, this is crazy.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, guess what? They pushed 4 of them to the side and picked up Werewolf Magic, both of them, and said, "Oh, we want this." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Seriously? That's what you want to do?" All right then. So the gods, the archetypes, whatever you want to call them, sort of pushed me into writing this book. At that point, it was really just for me, and it was a book of rituals and practices for me, all centered around getting out in the woods and trying to open up to this animal self.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been the book's done well. Here I am talking to you.
Yeah, you go really deep into stuff, though. It almost makes me kind of afraid for some people because, like, are there dangers, do you think, of going insane by messing with such deep aspects of the unconscious? I mean, you got to be prepared for that, right?
I think I put in enough caveat.
Oh, you did. But people who are messing around, like, they could, like, mess their heads up, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing about, like, right now we just legalized psilocybin mushrooms in Washington State.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Oregon. So, I mean, and now I'm free to actually mention it because it's legal.
Yeah.
But it's just like when people say to me, oh, should I do mushrooms? I'm like,
be ready for it.
Do I think it's a positive thing in general? I think in terms of opening up your mind, cleansing your brain, getting working through things, I think it's a useful tool. But yeah, I mean, Werewolf Magic I put as many caveats
you did.
As I could.
I think it's more so you just got to be responsible when approaching it and take the proper, like, everything that you say to do in preparation needs to be followed.
Yeah. Because I've been an occultist for 50 years, or a mystic, or a everything Taoist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done this for 50 years. I've seen lots of train wrecks. I mean, a lot of people I used to work with are no longer here, and so I'm very, and I'm a teacher, right? I mean, I teach university, and I love my students, and I care about them. And, if they're not feeling well, blah blah blah, right? So when I write a book like this, I'm like, I don't know, am I handing something dangerous to a child? But I mean, I have to also say there is no growth without some danger, without some.
That's definitely true.
And so like I said, I didn't plan to write this book. The fact, this spirit, whatever you want to call it, this wolf archetype had come up from, almost prehistoric eras in my brain,
Mm-hmm.
And this book just, kind of wrote itself.
It wrote itself.
And then it was the one book out of 5. I really wanted to do my Tantra book, which I did, by the way. That's coming out. I don't know when. It's being edited now, but
awesome.
I was more interested in that, but this is what everybody wanted. And it just, before I knew it, I had a contract, and I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm writing it. So
yeah, it's a good book.
It's selling. I mean, most of my books don't sell very well, or some of them are out.
I think that's about to go up in a lot of numbers there.
Well, somebody joked and said, well, you released it at the perfect time,
Oh yeah, that too.
Everybody's out there howling anyway. They might as well get some
timing.
Personal growth out of howling. Do you know, I don't know if you caught this, on Facebook, and I joined it right away, of course. There was a Facebook group called Howl at 8 p.m. Did you ever hear of this?
No.
There were 8,000 people on it.
That sounds awesome.
All over the world. And the only thing they did was at 8 p.m., no matter where they were, they stuck their head out their window or went in the front yard and just started howling. And apparently this was a thing all over the world of people just losing it. You heard of it?
I did. It happened in the Bay Area here in California.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
We got to do that.
Yeah. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but you can find it on Facebook. And I mean, I howl a lot anyway. So I went to a party. Howls are very infectious. I went to my birthday was just a week ago, and I went to a party, and it was kind of boring, and I went as I had my werewolf stuff on, and because it was sort of costumey, and towards the end I was like, this party needs a spark, and I just started howling, and it's infectious because all these sort of bored gothy types were sitting around, and they were like, oh, rolling their eyes. a minute in, and everyone in that room was howling. And I was like, okay, okay, my work here is done, I left.
So in the book, you talk about these different types of personalities of werewolf, like different personality types of werewolves. Can you give a quick overview of them and how they're different depending on the individual?
Wow. Can you prod my memory exactly what I was saying? Because I'm trying to remember exactly how I phrased that.
Yeah, how did you phrase that? I was reading it and I just thought that it was interesting that there were so many different types of personalities for werewolves.
Well, I basically did some research on wolves per se to see, if we're going to play this game and access our unconscious mind and work with this, our primal self, and it comes up, our imagination has a lot to do with how this is going to look to us. The key to sort of the shape-shifting stuff in there is imagination, will, and I believe, what do I want to say? Chakric energies, the bioelectric energy that runs through our body. People call it astral or energetic, whatever power. Mm-hmm. That we can shape these things. We can extend our aura. We can bring it in. There's been a lot of studies, as I'm sure you know, that what we can do with our mind is kind of.
Oh yeah, it's pretty amazing.
What I found personally through trial and error was that clear visualization of what you looked like as a werewolf was crucial to getting to that shape-shifting, complete liminal state of trance, to get into the most, I don't know, the most healing, the most open.
Okay, I got it.
So I can tell you what
it's the dire wolf, the eastern wolf, the red wolf, the gray wolf, the Indian wolf.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them, and they're all personality types.
Yeah, more or less. I sort of threw them out there for people so people can start to visualize. I think I mentioned in that chapter too, if this is something you want to try, if you want to do this sort of shape-shifting, you have to have a very clear visualization on who you are and what you are as an animal. And in this case, a werewolf. Though in other countries, it's other animals. In Korea and Japan, it's were-tigers, and China too. And in Morocco, when I was in Morocco, it's were-hyenas, and they strongly believe in these things. Many places I've traveled, people believe in shape-shifting.
Yeah, I like that at the end of the book you did the Anubis stuff, Anpu.
Yeah.
I was like, he probably is a werewolf deity, kind of, isn't he?
He is.
I never thought of that before.
Yeah, if you follow that link that I left there for that, he's not a jackal. He was what's called a golden wolf. And there's another Egyptian god called Wepawet, who was a wolf, who was a different kind of wolf, closer to the wolves that we have. So, I can tell you what I look like, because when you go into a trance state, no matter what kind of trance state, and you say, okay, what do I look like as a wolf, or what do I look like as a bear, or what do I, it comes. It's an archetypal thing in your brain. And I know I'm a large, regular wolf with mostly black fur and some gray.
And then you can meet your wolf in your dreams too. You can do that stuff that you said in the book to actually meet it. And
I did actually. I wrote the ritual and said, hope it works. And then I did it. In fact,
and it worked.
I had dreams. I've had a couple of dreams where I was running with the wolves, which is kind of nice. But I had a dream, sort of a regular night full of dreams. And then I was starting to wake up, and all of a sudden I had a color dream that was, I swear this is true. And no, I haven't told this to anybody, so you're going to get a kick out of it. And I'm sitting in a bar, right? Like having a beer. And I look over, and there's this big guy, a big bearish kind of guy with a big beard, and he's staring at me, and I look at him, and I said, oh. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I'm the one you've been asking for. I'm your wolf. I'm your wolf. I don't know how to say it. Wolf guardian angel. I don't know. I'm your wolf spirit. I'm in this form so we can talk, more or less. And I said, before I woke up, because felt like I was starting to wake up, I said, can you give me a name? Because, in all occult and psychological practices. Getting a name is
True names.
key. And I got a name, and a symbol. And so I'm not going to tell you, but I felt like I'd made like a sort of a deep unconscious mind connection with like the archetypal wolf spirit that I had been working with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what about the fletch? The fletch work.
Oh, fetch.
Fetch. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so this was sort of a sidebar because I hadn't planned to fold this in at all into what I was doing. But I was an initiated witch in the 70s in New York City. I was a Welsh traditionalist witch and worked my way up. And, then from thence I went into occultism and So I've sort of tried and done almost everything just to, I'm eclectic like you are. And everything was powerful and everything was interesting. And part of the witchcraft tradition is fetches. Now, what's more interesting, how I stumbled back into it again through Werewolf Magick, was with the Norse sorcerers were big on this. Mm-hmm. The Viking Norse sorcerers, we have some of the best intel you saw in the book. We have some of the best intel about shapeshifting and werewolves from the Eddas, which were hidden in Iceland away from the church that destroyed them.
Mm-hmm. It survived. And by the way, having been to Iceland, they absolutely believe in spirits, trolls, the gods, and about half the country is still worships the old gods. They say things like, hope the weather's good, Thor willing, and they're not being ironic; they're being quite real. Mm-hmm. So it's still there, and the idea of werewolves and shapeshifting was very real when I was there and talking to people. So they call it a phlegia, and it's a little bit clearer in the Viking stuff than in witchcraft, which got mixed in with so much Christianity and so much devil stuff. And the phlegia is kind of like your personal holy guardian, feral, angel, right? It's part of your astral being that is a sort of you're born with, and it can be it's a form. If you're a sorcerer in the it's
North,
basically like the HGA.
Basically like that. It's like a
similar.
It's like a feral HGA.
Yeah.
So and it usually is in the form, almost always in the form of an animal that you have that you have a deep feeling for, and you can energetically work with it. In the book, I talk a lot about a very interesting psychological and historical term called the double, and that was Lacanu, who's an amazing that book and that concept brought my whole book together. Without that, I wouldn't have written the book, because how do you explain on both physiological and psychological terms this idea of part of yourself being sent out and still connected with you? And we talk about astral travel and stuff like that, but what is that? And then he traces it all the way back to ancient Greece and before, this idea of a double, that we have an eternal soul, and then we have the Egyptians.
Yeah, that part of the book was interesting.
Yeah. To me, that was fascinating stuff, and I was like, oh, boom, I understand it, because this is what the Norse were talking about, and then I could extrapolate it to the witchcraft trials and the idea of a familiar or a fetch is part of yourself, that part of your energetic being that you've consciously, through imagination and will, formed as a separate entity, or it forms.
And it's pretty much autonomous too.
It can be. I mean, I think a lot depends on people's deep psychology, and what their expectations are. Some see it as an extension, like shamans will say, shamans say that the animal spirits can't come to them. And then one of them usually taps them on the shoulder and says, I am your, so they see it more as an autonomous external thing. Mm-hmm. In witchcraft, it's more that it's given to you by, the horn god, which the Christians call the devil. I call the Lord of the Forest. That's how.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that.
Right.
I was going to be like, who is this Lord of the Forest?
He's Pan, Cernunnos, Faunus. Almost always, not always horned. He's the green man. It comes up over and over and over again in the witchcraft trial documents. And he has different forms in history. Like in the Lupercalia, he was Faunus, who was the Roman Pan, but also the wolf god. But there's always a nod to this shadowy figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Celtic, there's a lot of shape-shifting.
Even Arthurian legend.
Even Arthurian legend. Like, did you see the Green Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fantastic movie. But that's a perfect example.
But what's funny is that that's actually based off of an earlier Celtic myth.
Exactly. so no, the old gods. There's always been a god of the forest, and then the Earth Mother or Gaia, right? The god of the forest sort of represents, defends, and is sort of a manifestation of that.
Yeah,
so,
you bring Hecate into it too with the three heads. Or how do you pronounce her name?
Okay, I have a lot. Apparently, at this point, I have a large set of friends who are into Hecate. Some are sure it's Hecate. Some are sure it's Hecate. So I just wait to see who I'm hanging out with before She showed up. She showed up too, and she showed up while I was in the middle of all this, because the woods I was in, suddenly owls started to come to me, and like sit on my deck and stare at me and sort of start to like communicate with me. And I felt, I said, oh, this is a goddess I've never worked with before. I know nothing about Hecate. And
yeah, she's kind of scary.
You know, considering what I was going through in my life, she was actually kind of a lifesaver, because she helped me separate and sort of let go of all of this shit that had been happening to me. And
yeah, but she's a fierce deity.
Not always. Sometimes she's depicted as a beautiful young woman who helps guide. Remember, she saved Persephone.
That's true. Just most of the time, though, she's pretty.
I suspect that in the Hellenistic world, she was, because she wasn't a Greek goddess. She was much older.
Yeah.
And in the Hellenistic world, which was very male centric, she was seen as a spooky, scary goddess because she wasn't.
She was a Titan, wasn't she?
No, she was pre that. I mean, I think they folded her in as a Titan, but
yeah, she wasn't one of the Olympians, is what I mean.
No, she was not, and she wasn't married. Like she wasn't. Yeah. She wasn't paired off with a god.
No, because she was too powerful and ancient and primordial for that.
Yeah. Even in ancient Greece, men don't really like that.
Yeah.
So you know.
Hi there, thanks for listening to Cryptic Chronicles. The show is sponsored by Blueberry, and if you're interested in starting your own podcast, use our link. We'll even give your podcast a shout out. Go to crypticchroniclespodcast.com and click on the Blueberry link on the homepage. By doing so, you'll be helping the show. Blueberry is optimized for iTunes as well as all podcast hubs. You won't have to worry about expensive contracts or fees. In fact, you won't have to leave your own website. You'll have your own RSS feed and no third-party sites. Try it for a month free by going through Cryptic Chronicles. Also, if you're a fan of cryptic content, please support the show on Patreon. By giving just $1 a month, you can really assist us in posting more content frequently. You'll also have access to bonus ad-free episodes of the show and the Discord channel. To keep up with all Cryptic Chronicles content, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and of course Facebook. Give the Facebook page a like and join the Cryptic Chronicles group. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for supporting the show, but most of all, thanks for listening.
I'm a tantric. In tantra, women have more power, are considered to have more power than men, and so and they are personifications of Shakti, and so so I suspect her power and her fearsomeness has to do with the fact that she's heavy into magic, and she doesn't give a.
And she has three heads that are wolves in some forms.
That's correct, and I think I mentioned it in the book.
You did. I'm repeating what you said.
About Cerberus, about Cerberus or Cerberus, the three-headed dog of the underworld.
There's also Cerberus who guards the underworld, the entrance.
Yeah. And so this loops me back around to the other thing that surprised me as I was delving deeply into this, both research-wise and personally, is how much werewolves and wolves were connected with death. I had no idea.
Oh, that's the good part of the book when you start to go into the underworld necromancy type stuff.
You like that, huh?
Yeah. I like Chthonian stuff is awesome.
It is not where I plan to go, let me tell you. And some people have been kind of put off by it, but I mean, I have so many stories in there about werewolf cults being connected with that. It's very possible. Like, for example, it's possible that the golden wolf that became Anubis was a scavenger of graves, and this is some of the myth, some of the stories I read, some of the historical, guessing, hypothesis, is that, they used to bury people in the sand, and then they'd come out and see, these wolves pulling the body away, and they would, and in their mind, it's like, oh, Anubis is taking that person to the underworld, right? So that kind of threw me, but yeah, there's a lot of connection. The wolf was a psychopomp, just like Mercury and Hermes and a lot of other deities, i.e. Someone who helped someone navigate the underworld, right? Mm-hmm. I wrote another book called Dog Magic, and what I discovered was like in Japan, the Ainu, who are very close to being a Siberian in origin. They're in Hokkaido. They still practice shamanism, and they believe that when you die, a dog, your special dog, appears and guides you through the dark caverns to get to the lovely underworld that you deserve. So this idea that dogs and wolves help us navigate after death, it seems to be cross-cultural and endemic. And
I vibe pretty good with that. I love dogs.
Yeah, me too. As you know, my dog has finally stopped barking. He is laying down at my feet now. He knows the routine.
Honestly, though, I love all animals, but I think that dogs are probably at the top.
Well, for me personally, I live alone, so my dog is like, he's my roommate. He's not just a dog, right? I mean, yeah,
he's your companion.
He is. We eat together, and we just took a walk a little while ago. So, yeah, I call him my little wolf, and in fact, his name is Faunus.
Faunus.
So this is funny. I don't know if you want to hear a little side story. I'll make it very quick. But Faunus is one of the major gods in the book, right? Faunus is the god of the forest, the Roman god of the forest, the Roman Pan. He's also a wolf god. And when I got him from a Native American woman I didn't realize, down in Tacoma, south of here. And when I went there was 100 puppies running around, and the mom and dad were there. And I picked up a black dog. I was like, oh, I like this dog. And she looked at me and she said, no, you go sit with those puppies, and the one that's supposed to go with you will come to you. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Then I noticed she had a huge wolf paw tattoo on her neck. And I checked in with her. I said, is that a wolf paw? She goes, yes, it's my tribal totem. She was Puyallup Indian. And then I saw by the door of the house was a 4-foot tall wolf statue made of wood that was also from her tribe. I'm like, okay, I'm in the right place.
Yep.
So I sat down, and this dog, my dog, came up to me, and I was like, oh, I don't know. He's kind of a runt, and I don't know, but he would not leave me alone. I'm like, all right, this is my dog. And when I signed the papers, she wrote in black fawn And I looked at her, I said, what is that? And she goes, that's the coloring. He has a very strange mottled gray and black, which I'd never seen before in a standard poodle. And I said, wow, that's weird. And she's like, what are you going to call it? I said, well, I think I'm going to call him Faunus. So he's my werewolf dog. That's all I can
Perfect.
He's my little werewolf.
So making your own devil sounded pretty interesting. And exactly what is that? Could you explain that for the listeners?
Making my own what?
Your own devil.
I don't think I used that exact word, did I?
Yes, but you used it in the context of your astral body.
Oh, double, not devil. Okay.
Not devil?
No,
double. I gotta say, I wrote my notes down wrong.
I mean, yeah, sure, we all have our own devil, but no, I don't think I wrote that. No, double, creating and manifesting your own double. Your double is just the energetic field around you, but it's malleable, right? Mm-hmm. It's malleable to will and focus and intention and imagination. And so the idea is that you have to accept, like once you know something exists, then you can work with it. If you're oblivious to it, you can't. In the ancient world, everybody knew, or a lot of people knew, they had a double. They have their eternal spirit, which never dies, and then they have their energetic body, Ka and Ba in Egyptian, right? Mm-hmm. And that energetic body, when you die, the energetic body still exists, but fades away, or if it's been strongly reinforced, maybe floats around, or it's what people see or communicate with when they're trying to talk to the dead. That's my opinion, and I base it on some other things too. So it's like molding clay. Like I happened to pick werewolf. Werewolf came to me. The wolf came to me. It's a spirit that indicated to me this is the image I should pick.
But what I was confused about was, did you turn your double into a fetch?
Yes, but
is that what happened?
It's two separate things. So most of my work has been with changing my double. Sort of think of it as like a costume or an astral shell. When I go into trance and do shape-shifting, I can create that form and project into it as a wolf.
And then you can do dream work with it.
You can do dream work with it, and and if you saw the ritual the way at the back, there's a lot of evidence that people were actually, through years of deep, what we would call shamanic practices, drumming in trance states and probably psychedelic drugs or some of the things they rubbed on themselves, like henbane and whatnot, are very, very dangerous, but also act psychoactively. Through years of practice, usually with somebody like a shaman, you can get to the point where you can project your full consciousness into this double and send it forth as a wolf.
Yeah, it's like you. But you have to be lucid projecting. I mean, lucid dreaming. I mean, to be able to do that.
Well, I think lucid dreaming is as far as I go, and wearing the whole thing as like a mat, like entering that form in my body is what I do. But there's enough evidence I found in lots of places that some people figure it out a trick to actually disconnecting their consciousness from their physical body and jumping into the double, and then that's where werewolves and people
that's astral projecting.
That's astral projecting, and that's what in an almost physical manner though. And this is what shamans do, and I know this because I've talked to them. They leave their body and they go comatose. Sometimes they're comatose for days. And this is exactly what the historians, Roman, Greek, medieval, say, that they would find these people who were quote unquote werewolves, and they were unresponsive. And this was the part that was interesting. Petronius, Roman author, historian, mm-hmm. had an encounter with a real werewolf, a guy who was a soldier who was supposed to accompany him someplace, guard him at night. He was a traitor. Suddenly, the soldier stopped and said, I've got something I've got to do, and turned into a werewolf and ran off. The guy was like, Petronius was like, damn, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm all right. I'm going to go to this farmhouse went a little ways, went to the farmhouse, and there was all this hullabaloo going on. And the farmer, he went up and said, "What's going on? And can I spend the night?" And he said, yeah. But we just had an attack by a wolf who took a sheep, but we managed to stab him with a spear. So he's like, okay, fine. He goes to the other town. He does his business. He comes back the next day, and he goes to see the soldier who ran off on him and knocks on his door. And he's ticked off, right? He's like, you just ran away from me, and I'm supposed to pay you, and blah, blah, blah. He goes in. The guy's lying there on his bed, injured from, as you can well imagine, a stab from a spear in his throat, which is exactly what had happened to the wolf. Now, I've seen this story, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 times, this exact story, that the wolf gets injured. They track down the person who is the werewolf by finding that person is missing their arm or has a wound or.
Yep.
So that's where it starts to get interesting to me. It's like this person has somehow managed to enhance their double. They've had training in some way. And these witchcraft covens that are accused of witchcraft, part of the confessions they made was they trained them how to do this. Now this goes, and I heard this story, I've seen the story in Greek, in Roman, in Celtic, and in Norse mythology and in Norse ideas about and writings about shapeshifters. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say except it's the same story you see over and over and over and over again. And finally, I found it in Slavic very clearly in a book that talked a lot about Slavic werewolf practices. And that ritual you see at the very end, they didn't want me to put it in. And I've never done it. I've never left my body comatose. I'm going to do that soon enough.
Yeah, you were talking about how you shouldn't do that. In the book, you were like, yeah, you shouldn't do this.
No. And I get more questions about that. Oh, come on, Denny, tell me how to do it. I'm like, yeah, no. I've got enough, loaded stuff in this book. I'm not going to say, rub henbane and
fracture people's psyches.
Yeah, that's not my job, But I follow. My goal is with this book is, I think we're all separated from nature horribly. And this is why we're destroying our planet, and we're heading for a cliff, and nobody seems to really. Everybody understands this. Everybody sees, the damages that are happening. Everybody knows global warming, and yet as a species, we're like the only species that is literally destroying itself and its environment. No other animal does this, and I mean I've over and over again, I've received clear communications. And when I've been in a trance state and been in nature and been completely non-ego and just completely there and felt and experienced the interconnection with my ecosystem on so many levels, I can't even have that conversation. Like once you are plugged into the ecosystem, everything is super clear. You're always part of the ecosystem, but our entire culture, our religions, our monotheistic religions, our culture, our politics, do everything to wall us off from our ecosystem, from our nature, so we can see it as a thing and see animals as things that we can exploit and destroy at will, because we were created in the image of God, and God said you can do whatever you want with the planet.
Man, I hate that shit. I don't see any difference from humans being separate from nature.
No.
Or the universe, for that matter. Like, we're all the same shit.
Well, I mean, where would we get? We get everything. I mean, at the end of my meditation every night, I honor the earth and I say, to you, from you, all things.
Yeah.
Is there anything we don't get from nature? And yet, it's so funny when I see people who eat meat are like, oh, animal sacrifice is so evil. And I'm like, I travel through Nepal, I travel through India, I travel through lots of countries where people sacrifice animals to the gods. I went to a massive sacrifice to
I'm against animal abuse.
But it's not abuse.
But if it's legit, it's fine. Yeah, I agree.
And then they eat it.
Yeah, that's fine. If the animal's respected,
yes,
it's fine.
Yes,
that's
exactly
right.
Nature. Exactly right. And and it's all very humane, and people have this opinion like, but they go to the store and they buy meat wrapped in plastic, right? And I'm like, well,
That's tortured animal,
yes, those animals,
which I'm against.
those animals are tortured.
Yeah.
And they're just oblivious. Like, but we blocked it off. It's like, I don't know. We're completely disconnected from nature. And when you go and hang out with tribal cultures like I have, they're not. They're utterly, they know. Like, oh, if there's a torrential rainstorm, we might not have food. I mean, they know that, and the magic they do and the work they do is very practical and pragmatic. They don't meditate and hope to achieve, transcendence because it's nice to do. They do a lot of magic to survive, and they believe strongly that they're shamans or they're holy people. Their job is to make sure that the tribe survives, that people know what's going on, that they're feeling like a flood is coming.
Yeah.
There was some very interesting stories about in India when the big tsunami came, and in Japan as well, that the Shinto priests had premonitions of the tsunami, and the same in India, and the gods came, the spirits came to them and said, do you need to move to higher ground quickly? And those people that sort of followed that, survived. So I mean, we're sort of in going into sort of a liminal space here, but the whole goal of Werewolf Magic, I've been told, and I realize clearly, is to help people smash through this wall they've created between themselves and nature.
Yeah.
And it takes radical, I mean, I have understood personally, it took my entire life falling apart. And I'm a big, I'm a witch, I'm a pagan, I worship nature. But I didn't really understand that I was worshiping nature and honoring nature and cared about nature and the environment, but I was not plugged in because my whole culture and the religions I grew up with and my family embedded in me the programming that I am a human being, not an animal. And you'd say that to people, you say, you're an animal. We are animals. We are Homo sapiens. We are primates. Primates are animals. You have that conversation with people and they immediately clam up and they get very defensive. I'm not an animal. If you think about all the negative pejoratives we use, don't be an animal. He's a dog, she's this, she's that. We use animals as negative terminology.
And if you want to get into like quantum mechanics and stuff, we're really just aspects of the universe experiencing itself subjectively.
Exactly. Oh, you go right to Taoism. I love it. That's true. So if that's all true, then we have a lot of freedom in terms of that.
Yeah.
And that's part of my belief system, or my pragmatic belief system in terms of what I'm doing with this is, and the fact that the ancients had this idea of a double in like every single ancient culture I studied, and I've studied a lot. I spent many, many years taking ancient history classes. But as I dug down on this, the concept of the double, of this astral force that we have that can be sent out or brought back or shifted or changed or even separated from your body is fascinating and seems to be accepted by Taoists and Buddhists and Shinto.
Yeah, I feel like there's something that could be analogous to that in basically every spiritual tradition or wisdom tradition. I
agree. That was my opinion.
Yeah.
And I also do practice in Tibetan Buddhism. I work with Tara a lot. I've been taking refuge and blah blah blah. I pretty much do everything. But it's the same sort of thing. It's they would call the three-eyed wolf one of my yidams, or my main yidam, the deity that has chosen me. And I have several deities that have chosen. Pan is a big one, and that's another long conversation. But he showed up when I was 15, and I think he's kind of steered me towards one crazy nature-centered thing after another. But I mean, these are all archetypes that are within us.
Yes.
But so is nature. I mean, we belong in nature. We are part of nature.
We are.
The greatest sense of relief and belonging I think I've ever felt is through going into the woods and ripping off all my clothes and stop speaking, but you read about the were lingo and all that.
Yeah.
I stopped talking, I stopped cognating, and I enter this fugue state. And now I have a way of doing this where I'm simply an animal in nature.
Yeah. You stop talking. You don't think. You say that specifically.
Yeah.
You just grunt and stuff.
Yeah. I howl. I've shifted. So like, I've been watching and seeing like up howling has one connotation, down howling has another, right? Like, oh is one, and then oh is another, right? And same with growling and whatnot. So I pieced together a whole communicative system of
a language.
Of what animals do when they communicate with each other. Once I can shift into that space, I'm not there. I mean, it's the most Taoist thing I've ever done. You read about the philosophy that kind of came with all this, the wildness, the weird, and the way. Well, if you're into Taoism, you know what the way is.
Yes.
And I had the first two. I had wildness and weird. I had those because the weird is the interconnected, infinitely interconnected system that we can't even comprehend. Scientists can't even comprehend of an ecosystem, right? And the way it interpenetrates, and we survive within it, and we pull this way, and it shifts the system and ourselves. But I couldn't figure out what the third one was, and I knew it. It was driving me crazy. And I went back to Japan a few years ago to see a friend of mine who was very ill. And I love Japan. I was there for a long time. And I went to he took me to a way out in the woods, this Shinto shrine to the Tengu. The Tengu are...
Oh, I know who they are.
Okay, good. Yeah. They're winged nature spirits. They're spirits of mountains. Like, they're very primordial spirits. Mm-hmm. They're very feral spirits. And I'm out there surrounded by a bamboo forest and this old shrine that was like 1,000 years old that hadn't been destroyed. And I'm doing my thing and meditating, and I do my offering and whatnot. And I sat and just was like clear, and all of a sudden everything went silent, and I got it. I got it. It was like, oh, duh. Oh, duh. Like, just being, Mm-hmm. So, Denny, you got to go home and cognate about being. No, wait, I can't do that. Oh, so that was the tricky part. The tricky part is how do you talk about the Tao? You can't,
because then it's not the true Tao.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Have you ever read Wei Wu Wei?
I probably have that. Yeah, because I have a whole library.
He's an author from China, and it's very hard to get his books.
I might not then.
You might like it. I'll WEI, just like it sounds, Wei Wu Wei. If you can find it, you might find. I didn't know about it. I actually learned about it from Kenneth Grant, if you can believe it. So, and his books put you into an instant Taoist trance state. His short aphorisms. If you like the Tao Te Ching, you'll like it.
Oh, hell yeah! And
I'm a Chung Tzu fan myself, but we could go off tangent.
We could. We're running out of time, though, my man. But okay. I would definitely like to have you back on here again.
Sure. Is there any last question about Werewolf Magic you want to talk about?
I think I went through it all through my notes. But is there anywhere that the listeners can find you?
Yes. Yes. I'm on Facebook. I have an author page, Denny Sargent Author. And I also have a blog and a website. And you can get to it with werewolfmagick.com. So WEREWOLF magic with a K, MAGICK.com. That gets you to me. I also am on Facebook. If anybody wants to friend me, that's fine. I'm pretty open and friendly.
I'll have a link for the book in the show notes. And Denny, if you want to email me any links for any of your stuff, I will include those into the show notes as well.
The last thing I want to end is that I'm in the middle of doing final edits on Werewolf Pack Magic, which is going to come out. That's going to come out in 2022.
Well, we're going to need to get you on here for that.
Yeah.
That's for groups, and it's really kick-ass. Because I went to PantheaCon and I presented on it, and everybody went completely nuts. And it was crazy. And I was like, oh my God, this works really well with a group. I guess I should.
It's always stronger in a group, man.
Always stronger in a group, especially once you start doing animal stuff like howling and growling. like people are this close, especially now
Yeah.
in the pandemic, to their animal self, right? You all you have to do is drive on the highway to see that, you know.
Yeah, that egregore is just flaring up.
They are. So I guess I'm riding that wave somehow. I don't know. Shape shift safely, my friends. I think that's what I'm going to start telling people.
Yeah, don't drive yourself crazy. Be careful and follow the instructions.
Or if you do drive yourself crazy, do it in the woods where you're not going to actually hurt anybody. You'll come back better.
Yeah, there you go. If you survive.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, my friend.
None of us get out of here alive. Hey, thank you so much, Tim. And
It's been a
Ashley,
pleasure.
And sorry, Ashley, I haven't heard that much from you, and I'm sorry because I'm talking so much. But
Oh, it's okay, Denny. The collection of your stories are fun and entertaining.
oh, thank you. Oh,
Yes.
that makes me really happy. All right. Well, you guys have a happy Halloween.
You too.
This is my Halloween show. All right.
Take care,
Okay.
man.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode. If you like the conversation, go ahead and go check out Denny's book, Werewolf Magick. A link will be in the show notes, as well as a plethora of all his other books, which are many. And follow him on social media and whatnot. All the links will be in the show notes. Ashley and I really like Denny, and we'll try to get him back on the show from time to time. We'll see what goes on with his schedule and whatnot. He was a really chill guy that was fun to talk to. And it was pretty cool to have Ashley on the show too, even though she just kind of hung out in the background. Make sure that you have a safe and productive Halloween in collecting candy, and watch out for werewolves. Cryptic Chronicles is available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and basically all podcast hubs. You look for us and we're there. If you can, make sure you like and comment or review wherever you hear this content. If you enjoy Cryptic Chronicles even in the slightest, you can help out by leaving your own comment, or any interaction makes algorithms like the episode more and will help spread it, and in doing so help grow and spread the show. So please review, comment, share, like, it all helps. If it's on a podcast hub, just leave a review, that helps a lot. And though the show is free to listen to, the cost to produce it is substantial, and by pleasing the gods of the algorithm, you are doing more than your part in support. Let's look at a comment real quick. On the Once a Bitcoin Miner episode, Michael Worrell says, "That was a fantastic interview." Thanks, Michael. And if you really, really like Cryptic Chronicles and you happen to be awesome, then support the show on Patreon. For just $1, you can unlock full uncensored shows with no ads or anything like that. Get everything early, like ridiculously early, and you'll get exclusives as well. And you can join the Discord channel. Just go to crypticchronicles.com and at the top, click on the Chronicler's Vault. It's a Patreon link. You'll be good to go. And speaking of awesome, I'd like to thank my current patrons, MJ Calvo, Adrian, John, Celestial Weavers, AlienX, Lorna Grubb, Paul, Linda Gonzalez, Angela Delaire, Ashley, Brad Herbert, Lawrence Lee, Patricia Coles, Kayla, Max, Michael Worrell, and Jimmy Wood. Thanks for supporting Cryptic Chronicles, but most of all, thanks for listening. And as a wise mystic once said, dreams are like the old stories, where wolves are seekers always running, and women carry fire in their bare hands and light in the dark paths before them. Old stories hold that the birds will fly all the miles of the world to tell your secrets to the rising moon, and men will walk over oceans of ice to find one truth.